Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here for this press conference to review 2024. It's a pleasure to have you all here and punctual as well. It's great to have with you as we recap this calendar year and recap some of the highlights that we had this calendar year and also look ahead to 2024, 2025 rather. We have joined with us the president of the Jamaica Football Federation, Mr. Michael Ricketts, and we're also joined with our general secretary, Mr. Dennis Chung, as well as a few specially invited guests as well. So, firstly, we're going to commence with our president, Mr. Ricketts, who will go into some of the highlights of 2024 and a few remarks from him. Mr. Ricketts, good morning to you, sir. Hope you are doing well.
Good morning, Simon. Good morning, Jensek. Special good morning to those representing the various media houses. It is indeed a pleasure for me to, in collaboration with my directors, to look at what would have transpired since January 2024. I must use this opportunity again to say thanks to every single director, every single parish president, the chairman and members of our respective standing committees, and also our committees. Personally, I want to express my profound gratitude and to ask of you that you continue to give of your best as we would have crafted a way forward for Jamaica's football that I think will bring us glory very soon. To my vice presidents, Messrs. Uh, Grant, Daly, Watson, and Mrs. Elaine Walker Brown, I really want to again say a very special thanks to you all for giving me tremendous support. To my Gensec, who has always given his best. And he, I'm sure, will speak on the fiscal prudency that we would have employed to ensure that going forward, from a commercial standpoint, we would be in a good stead with our members and, of course, our parent organizations. So if we look back from a technical perspective, and again, it would be very remiss of me not to mention the chairpersons of our standing committees. I mean, people like Rudolph Speed would have done exceedingly well as the chairman of the technical committee and certainly by extension as a coach to Mr. Gregory Daly, who chairs the competitions committee, Mr. Dave Meikle, who chairs the referees committee, amongst others, the finance committee and all the other standing committees. Let us look, gentlemen and ladies, at what the football itself, the technical part of our program would have been since January. I just want to briefly look at some of our achievements, and I will thereafter look at some of the proposals for 2025. First of all, our senior men's team would have earned their first medal at the Nations League since 2017. Of course, we were third, and no secret that the first Caribbean team would have achieved such a feat. Secondly, we would have accumulated 6 points from our World Cup qualifying games. This will continue next year, June, I think, when we will engage the British Virgin Islands and, of course, Guatemala. Interestingly, we scored our first goal in Copa America, having campaigned in that competition 3 times. We scored our first goal, courtesy, of course, of the now ailing Mr. Michael Antonio. And I really want to use this opportunity to wish him a very full and speedy recovery as we all would have known that he was involved in a motor vehicle accident and was seriously injured. Uh, 14 players from our local premiership would have made their debut in 2024. And this is something that I think is very important that we highlight, because the perception could very well be that we have not given enough attention to our local players. But this is not so. And I want to reiterate that 14 players, local based players, who would participate in our local JPL made their debut in 2024. We, of course, are intent and as best as possible expose our young and local talents as we try to give them an opportunity to become marketable globally. Of course, we would have engaged Central American countries, Honduras and Nicaragua, in the competition just concluded. And of course, for the first time in the history of Jamaica's football, would have beaten Central American countries in consecutive games in Central America. No ordinary achievement, because those of us who are intimate with football around the region would understand how tough it is when you play in Central America. It would be extremely remiss of me not to make special mention of two of our local clubs, Cavalier and Arnett Gardens. They would have, Cavalier certainly has now become a household name around the region, around CONCACAF. Arnett would have won the Caribbean Club Shield and Cavalier the CONCACAF Caribbean Cup. No ordinary achievement. And we must say huge congratulations to Arnett Gardens and, of course, to Cavalier. Our under 14 youngsters did so very well by winning the CFU Caribbean Cup Shield. I mean, we played the finals and we at halftime we were down by a goal to nil. And we came back and scored 7 goals in 40 minutes. That could very well be some kind of a record in a final. We eventually won that game by 7 goals to 1. Of course, we just concluded, or girls that is, would have just concluded a series against South Africa. We played 2 games in Montego Bay. The first game we won, I think we were most impressive, beating South Africa by 3 goals to 0. In the next game, of course, we won 3-2, so the tie went down 6 goals to 2. Must recognize the achievements of Miss Khadija Shaw, who was 15th in a global competition. Of course, she was 15th for the women's Ballon d'Or. This speaks volume. And when you think that Bonnie is a homegrown talent, went to Crescent Primary, then to St. Jago, and really grew up through our youth program. Again, I must say thanks to my technical staff. And when you look at the achievements of our men's team, our youth teams, and of course our women's teams, the entire technical staff of each of these units must be commended highly. Our coaching education would have produced some, and I have no apologies saying some coaches with great ambition and great skills. When you look at Arnett Gardens, which is coached by Xavier Gilbert, He is one of the 6 A-licensed coaches in Jamaica. When you look at Peart, who is the principal for the coaching school, he won a national competition, the Champions Cup. When you look at Vassar Reynolds, won the Manning Cup with Kingston College, he is also a licensed coach. When you look at Garvey and Meron Gordon, he is also a licensed coach. And finally, Rudolph Speed. And like I've said, Cavalier and Speed have now become a household name around the region, around the CFU and around the CONCACAF. Just last weekend, I was at a CONCACAF president's meeting, and Cavalier and Speed was virtually the toast of the convention. So, I mean, we locally seem to take these things lightly, but people around the region really don't. And again, I must congratulate our coaching, education, support staff, headed again by Peart and Speed. They certainly would have done so very well. From an administrative standpoint, we have been having discussions with GC Foster to try and empower some of our local administrators, and that program will certainly be rolled out very soon. To our referees, who again would have done exceedingly well both locally and on the global stage, we really want to say thanks to Victor Stewart, Dave Meeker, and the others who would have crafted a way forward for young referees. And I do believe that sometimes they come under undue pressure, but that's what refereeing is about. So I always say to them, you must stay strong. I mean, you have to be tough mentally. And they really have done so very well. As we look forward to, 2025, 2025 is going to be a very, very, very exciting year and a year filled with footballing activities. Our young under 17s will take a sojourn down to Mexico. I think they leave on the 4th of January to participate in a tournament in preparation for the World Cup, which would take place in Guatemala in 1 month from this sojourn in Mexico. So that starts, I think, the 6th, and then the World Cup qualifiers will take place in Guatemala from February 8th to 16th. We also will be trying to organize a number of practice games in preparation for the World Cup qualifiers for a senior men's team. We have, albeit in a very embryonic stage, been having discussions with Trinidad for them to come to Jamaica to participate in a 2 or 3 match series sometime in early February. So the Reggae Girls, their World Cup, or rather, yes, their World Cup campaign kicks off in October of 2025. The under 17 qualifiers for women takes place in January in Nicaragua. The under 20s, that's a women's version, takes place in Nicaragua from February 20 to 25. And of course, the Gold Cup preliminaries with our men's team takes place in March 20 to 25, with 2 games against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And that certainly will be home and away. I really would want to say something on fiscal management, but that certainly would be more of Dennis's portfolio responsibility. So he will deal with that. Again, I want to say thanks. And if there are questions, I'm pretty certain that there is a segment for that. Thank you, Simon.
Yep, thank you very much, Mr. Ricketts, for that comprehensive report and summary of 2024. Mr. Chung, before you go into the updates, is there anything you'd like to add to what Mr. Ricketts said in terms of the updates or congratulatory
No,
messages?
no, I think the president has said it well in terms of the technical side. So I mean, I know questions will come out and that might clarify anything for anyone, but certainly the president has said it well. One of the things I'd add maybe is that the under 14 team that the president mentioned is the only team that has won that is all local players and staff. So that is a significant accomplishment. Yeah.
Okay, no
Yeah.
problem. You can proceed ahead now, Mr. Chung, with updates from your
All
standpoint.
right. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. The president, of course, supporting him in what he's saying. He's really the one giving the update. But just to provide an update on the administration and the fiscal side, um, you'd have known that one of the things when I came here in November 2022, we had said that we would provide regular updates to the public, and whether good or bad, and we have been doing that. We've gone through a little tumultuous period with the election, and we always were very transparent. So we continue that trend of transparency, which I believe is critical for us to have if we're going to work together and ensure the development of the JFF and football. I would have been now in the well, after 2 years, everyone knows I'm on a 3-year contract with the JFF. So this would be I've completed 2 years now. So let me start by just saying that, um, we are very happy with the support that the media has always provided to JFF, and reported on on our progress, and we are also happy with the staff. I want to thank the staff of the JFF for the support that they've provided, because as we know, the it as one famous prime minister said, it takes cash to care, and therefore the monetary or the fiscal side of the program is always very important. I want to start by just saying first that there's been some staffing developments you should know about, and I want to celebrate some people. We have 4 persons who are going to be retiring at the end of this year. Um, those persons would have mentioned before, Mr. Wendell Downswell, who has served very well the JFF and Jamaica football, and enough cannot be said about Wendell's contribution. Mr. Earl Bailey, who has served us very well also, and has been a face of football. Beverly Melbourne, sorry, thinking about the runner, who has served us very well also, and Mrs. Watson, who is our security officer, who has served us very well. Some of them will be going on to additional contracts with the JFF, of course, but they're in their substantive role. They will move away from that. Mr. Simon Preston is now the press officer of the JFF, as you'd have seen, and we'll have a marketing manager who will be joining us next year as we focus on the revenue building side of the JFF. And other updates on staffing issues will come during the year 2025, the start certainly. So I want to take the opportunity to thank these persons who have contributed significantly. You'll hear more about how we're going to celebrate them, and also the staff at the JFF, because it has been a lot. I mean, a lot of times people don't see the background work that's happening that goes into a game or the organization of the events. I want to also thank the 3 support groups who have come out and have played a significant role in helping us to mend the image of the JFF and get more support out there. In particular, persons like Errol Walters out of New York, Kyle Wallace out of New York, and Huntley Dickinson also. And also you'll hear from Gary Graham about an initiative he's working on with us. These are persons who have come out and said, hey, we recognize what is happening with the JFF and we want to lend our support, right? There has been no cost to the JFF, and therefore I want to thank these persons for their contribution and their continued support to the JFF. And it shows that they're really true Jamaicans, even though living in the diaspora, to develop the brand of the JFF. I want to now just give you an update on the operations, where we are from a financial point of view. Over the past year, we've put a lot of policies in place. Of note, we've had the travel policy, which we've worked with FIFA on putting that in. And we are now at the end of a procurement exercise for a travel advisor who is going to be with us for the next 2 years. That process has closed in terms of the bids on Wednesday, and we're now in the process of selecting that successful candidate. The reason why this one is important is because, we would have had in this year a successful audit coming out of FIFA or central review audit, where the only issue remaining was the one of the travel procurement. The Caribbean in particular has been very difficult in terms of adhering to the procurement rules that were there before because of the limited number of spaces we have available in the Caribbean. And therefore, each time we get a quote, the price would automatically go up because once they reserve the seats that we've asked for, then the demand would still be there, but the supply would go down. So we've had to work on another initiative with FIFA, and we're expecting to close that and in January announce a travel consultant who will be working with us, successful person from the bid. So we've put in place a lot of policies to strengthen the governance, financial governance, and other governance of the JFF. And we think that we've been doing the best that we can and leading the way for that. In particular, some of the improvements that we've made has really helped with our own compliance. So the JFF continues to maintain a relevant and up-to-date tax compliance certificate. As I always say, is not something that many companies can say that they have. We've had now for over a year had an up-to-date tax compliance certificate. So we're in a good stead with the tax authorities. And just to look at the financial side, year to date, November, the 11 months, the JFF has reported a surplus of $105.3 million. This is compared to a deficit of $11.4 million the same time last year. What it means for us is that we are slowly, or maybe a little more than slowly, working on reducing our negative equity position, which is very important for us. And last year, this time we had a negative equity of $242 million, $242.5 million. As at the end of November 2024, we have a negative equity of $82.6 million, which is a significant improvement. And for those who are accountants, when you look at your balance sheet, as I'm an accountant, you will see the significant improvement in our current ratio. For example, moving from 0.4 to 0.58 this year, which the measurement is that the closer to 1 or over you are, the better it is. So we're making moves in that direction. We've managed to, by doing so, increase our cash resources and reduce our payables significantly to the point now where we really don't have any aging issues. With I would say 90%. we've paid up everybody that we've owed, and within the credit period. So we've made some significant strides. We have all the players who play for us. We actually have paid up the current players. And we've had issues with those things in the past, and we're now current. In fact, the game that just ended, the South Africa game, we're actually making those payments have been made for the game to the girls. And also the men have been paid up. So we're current with that, and that is thanks to the work that's been done by the staff. As a Grace Grant, our accountant, is on, and she's the one who has really led this change in terms of ensuring that we adhere to proper budgeting and fiscal rules. So, thanks a lot for the support. So we have made some significant progress there. Going into next year, and we have Congress in January. I don't know if the president will want to mention that soon also. We know that it's going to be a more challenging year financially. So we have decided that what we need to do is focus on building revenue and bringing in new revenues. So coming out of the last two games, you'd have seen that we were actually streaming the events on our YouTube channel, JFF Live, which is our JFF TV. And that is something that on the 10th of January, we plan to launch JFF Live. And what we will be doing is we will be monetizing the channel. So we will be streaming all our games, right, that we play on that channel. We'll invite subscribers on at a cost, of course, and also there will be a cost to view the game. What it does also in terms of working with the inadequate infrastructure that we have in Jamaica, it allows more and more people to view it. So I know next year the stadium, they're going to start the work on it, and the seating capacity is going to be limited. With this YouTube channel, we are going to be able to bring more and more people in to see the game. And the quality is going to be very good. Gary, who is here, will speak to that. But certainly, we're going to produce a first-class production. Is going to be out there, and we're going to ensure that persons from around the world are able to see it. I know the last game, we had over 60,000 views per game, and that is pretty significant. Based on that, what we did in the last game, we have confirmed with YouTube, and we are already qualified to receive money. So all of that will be done, and we're looking forward to that in 2025. There's nothing more for me really to say more than that. We plan to improve on the brand more and more, and wish everyone here, the best for the holiday season. And maybe just ask Gario to just give us a few words, Simon, on the YouTube channel and the activation, so the media and the public can understand.
Yep, no, not a problem. Thanks. Thank you very much, Mr. Chung. So before I open the floor for questions from members of the media, just a few remarks from Gario, and then we'll open the floor for questions. So Gario, you can proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Depends on where you are. As Mr. Chung mentioned, we'll be launching Jamaica Football Federation Live, JFF Live, January 10th. And we'll have the Jamaica TV, which will be on YouTube, but Jamaica Live is overall the body of what we're going to be doing, which is basically bridging the gap between Jamaica football and the fans. And that's what we really want to focus on, is like, how can we give the fans more experience with Jamaica football, whether it's at the stadium and, of course, online and YouTube. And within that subscription, there will be a lot of perks, a lot of engaging benefits for the fans to be a part of. It'll be something that the fans should be excited about, and not giving away too much right now. Let's just say like it's going to be a very incentivized package that comes with this offer. So I'm excited for it.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Gario. Okay, so now we have the question and answer segment. Let's start with Cronky. You can proceed, unmute, and go ahead.
Well, I'm very excited about the YouTube channel. I started doing some quick calculation, Dennis, and it should be very lucrative, no matter how you look at it. Secondly, first, thanks to the President Dennis for being on my program more recently, Cranky Live, to discuss some of these matters. And given I have a litany of questions, Dennis and the President, I hope you return soon to answer some of them because the two-question limitation is killing me. Since all your comments have been about positive achievement, I'm going to do a more balanced question, actually, which is what goals were set in 2024, which have not been achieved or not been achieved to your satisfaction? And what have you learned from this? And how are you addressing these?
That's three questions, Cranky. Thank you very much. Mr. Chung, you can go.
It's one question about the goals achieved in 2024.
I don't know if the president wants to take that first.
The question, I heard a little bit about what we did not achieve. Was that?
Yeah. I'll ask one question because Simon is saying it's three. So I'll ask one question. What goals in 2024 have you not achieved? What are you doing about it? It's one question.
I am not sure. I mean, you probably could help me with this, but there are, of course, we're not infallible, so we would have fallen short in some areas. I mean, I think we have not been able to expose enough of our young players. And I want to use this opportunity of highlighting a successful schoolboys competition, which would have given us an opportunity to see some of our youngsters who would have come up through the ISA ranks. So that is something that we can't discount. But that, sir, would be one of our weaknesses to expose. And having now done so very well with the support of the TDS program and having done so well with the under 14s, I think we are on track to have this issue corrected. Or under 17s, I mean, have trained very well. I am really very hopeful and optimistic that they will qualify when they get into that tournament in February. But I think that would have been probably our main issues. And of course, having lost to the US twice, that is nothing for us not to be, I mean, ashamed about, because we, I think, was very competitive. We were competitive in both games, but I would think from a technical perspective, composure in front of the goal would have let us down. We really need to produce some more world-class players. And having now established this coaching empowerment program, we are online to, of course, making better players, better development program, and of course, high quality senior players. I hope that answers your question.
I have one related question.
Yeah, Cranky, if I can just put in something,
Okay.
Cranky. Certainly for me, I think that I was hoping that we'd have had more sponsors coming on, not just at the level of the JFF, but also at the local level. I think that the elections would have put a damper on that and created some negative imaging. I've last year, for example, I was in negotiations with a major sponsor, and because of the elections, they pulled out and didn't do anything. But I'm heartened recently by some approaches, including two persons who approached me, two different organizations, about sponsoring at the local level, right? So not at the JFF level, but the local parish level, and I'm having discussions on that. And I think that as we change the image more positively of JFF, so when people don't see that you owe money all over the place and that more and more people come on. I mean, that's how corporate people are. So I'm hoping that, two have come on at the local level. I'm hoping that more will come on and talk to me. And this is based on their own initiative, eh? So it's not people that we've actually gone out and spoken to. And I'm hoping that more people also come on at the national level. So that is just the timing of it for me. Would have been a disappointment for 24.
Well, I'm very pleased and comfortable about direction of travel when it comes monetarily, Dennis, because I know you're taking care of that, and I'm glad you focus on that. And I want to talk to you a lot more about that. But here's my second question, because we've talked a lot about the positive aspect of things, and I love that. But, and I mentioned it before, Dennis, the under 20, we have said nothing about that. We exalt the under 14. We talked about the women against South Africa, how well they have done. We've talked about Reggae Boys making Copa. The under 20 didn't do well in the Central America tournament, in the CONCACAF tournament. We promised to have a post-mortem on this. It has not occurred. So as we laud our success, as we feel good about our success, or I wouldn't call them failures, but us not achieving some things, we have to think about how we provide the public with transparency about these things and how we address them. So what is the story on the under 20 in the postmortem?
Honestly, I'm going to ask the president as a more technical person to address that for me. President.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we didn't do an in-depth postmortem, but of course, based on the reports that would have gotten from the technical committee and from the head of delegation, there were glaring issues that ought to be and must be addressed. So yeah, we are aware of what the issues were. I think indiscipline would have been of some concern on that ill-fated tour. But we are aware of what the issues were, and we are intent on having them corrected, sir.
Okay. That's my two quick, Simon, since you've limited me to two.
Thank you very much, Cronky. Let's hear from Siobhan Pierce. Go ahead, Shav. All right, your microphone is open, but I'm not hearing you, Shav. Can you speak? Because I'm not hearing you. If not, we'll proceed to somebody else until your microphone is sorted. Bryce, go ahead.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so just really one question that I have to ask is that so with all these achievements, what role can we expect the JFF to play now in 2025 to ensure that Jamaican football at all age groups maintains its success in the Caribbean region as a standard bearer, as well as improve in its standings in the global stage?
All right, I suppose, Dennis, that will be directed to me.
Yes, President.
But very, very relevant question, Mr. Bryce. And of course, we have a technical committee that is already working on transferring the talent from 14 to 15, 15 to 17. And we would have already had discussions in this regard. I mean, next year would be the CONCACAF under 15, and we're hoping that the under 14, a nucleus of that under 14 group, would be able to make the transition to the under 15s. Then those under 15s next year will certainly now be the core of the under 17s for the following year. And I think it's timely that our under 14 would have done so very well this year. And again, I want to give some credit to the TDS program. And the under 14s now will hopefully make the transition to the CONCACAF under 15 next year. Under 17 World Cup now is every year. So we have to put some succession planning in place to ensure that we are very, very competitive for the next, at least for the next 5 years, when the under 17 World Cup will be every year. And these 5 consecutive tournaments will be played in Qatar. So yes, we are very aware of the importance of engaging the right technical persons. And I did mention the skill sets of our A licensed coaches. And there are a number of B licensed coaches now who are prepared to move on to become A licensed coaches. So the coaching aspect of it, and of course, harnessing the talents at under 14 to go to under 15, and then under 15 to under 17, very important. And that's the route our technical committee will be taking.
Bryce, did you have a follow-up? Okay. Okay. Mr. Chung, there was a question in the chat in relates to updates in relation to airline deal. Do you have any updates where that is concerned?
No, I actually had a discussion with the person who is working on it last week, and they're still working through it. They're hoping for a breakthrough in January. So we don't have anything on that yet. And one of the persons who I've been talking to also was one of the persons who made a bid in the travel procurement process. So we're hoping that, even if we don't have a deal with a direct airline, which we're talking to two of them now, we would at least have a deal with someone in the industry who can assist us with getting, discounted flights and that sort of thing. Because the idea is really to cut down on the costs. Is probably the most significant cost we have. So we're working on it from different angles. So hopefully January or so, we will have that in place.
Okay. Thanks, Eddie. Let's hear from Dwight Spence now. Mr. Spence.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Simon. Good morning to the JFF leadership team.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much. This is more a technically related question. In regards to our young and viable up-and-coming professionals, as you mentioned, there were 14 domestically groomed and homegrown reggae boys that made the senior national team squad in 2024. What are your plans for elite U17, U20, U21 players in collaboration and synergy with the technical committee, Coach McLaren, and technical director Wendell Downsville to further the development of homegrown players and also integrating the players in the diaspora in those elite player age groups? Once again, that's a U17, U20, U21, and U23 levels.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot for your question. As it is structured now, the country is divided into 4 regions. Each region has a scout that is part of the technical development scheme. And like I said, each region has a scout. And the role of that scout is to move around the respective parishes and to identify elite players, have them recommended to Speed and Downsville and that committee. And then we take them as the elite players now spread all over the country from each of the 4 regions and certainly from each of the parishes. Then we take them to the technical center based in Kingston and have them there in an organized setting, operating as an academy. And of course, from that group, we would make the transition to the respective age groups. We have had some discussion with Coach McLaren, and we, of course, is very serious about not bypassing our own local talent, who sometimes may feel shortchanged. But we will be working on that assiduously and with the highest level of urgency to ensure that the elite local players get their slice or get their opportunity to showcase their talent at the national level. So we have had this discussion. I mean, Pierre 2 is at under 14, is very well aware. Freddie Butler, who is at under 17, he is very much aware. And of course, the under 20. And this goes also to the fairer sex, to the ladies. We want to ensure that each of our reggae girls get the opportunity to showcase their talent. So this is something, sir, that we are aware of and something that we are giving some serious attention.
Thank you very much, Dwight.
And
Go ahead,
one more
Dwight.
question, Simon, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
This is more a financial question geared toward Mr. Speed and anybody involved in that standpoint of the JFF. How has your goals towards Adidas revenue been? And are there do you see a greater need for either an online presence or a physical store presence or a physical presence of Adidas kit sales at matches or in a physical store to enhance that revenue growth come in 2025 and as we kick into the World Cup here in 2026?
Dennis, I think you should take that on.
I believe he's muted.
Yes, Mr. Chung.
Yeah. The revenues from the Adidas deal have been consistent with the contract. So we're happy for that. It does have some performance related triggers in there. So, we're hoping that next year we'll see even more coming. But the revenues have been well received. It has been good.
And Dennis, you need to let the gentlemen and maybe ladies know that on the 19th, that's next week, Thursday, I think, we'll be having an end of year meeting with Adidas just to review what would have transpired through 2024 and for them to give us an update on what will happen in 2025.
Yes. So we'll be reviewing that next week. In terms of presence, I mean, our contract, of course, restricts us from selling. We think Adidas does have a very good online presence. What we don't have is presence in terms of a physical presence in the country because they really distribute through Adidas retailers. So what we've been trying to do is see if we can actually get some things to sell here. But that is something that Adidas will have to approve. What I think is important also is because we see a lot of merchandise being sold that are not genuine. We've pointed that out to Adidas also for them to address it. But there is nothing else that we can do from that standpoint. We're waiting on them to come back to us and say, yes, you can sell some of these items, but until then, our contract does not allow us to do that. What we want to do here, though, is we are looking at developing a JFF store where we can sell JFF merchandise and also merchandise for the clubs, the JPL clubs. So that's one of the things that we're looking at an online store and also a physical store. But we couldn't be selling the Adidas branded kits because that's outside of our contract.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
appreciated.
Dwight. Thank you, Dwight. Before we go on to Kathia, we just acknowledging the presence of the general manager of the JFF, Mr. Roy Simpson, who has joined us. Kathia Davis, good morning. You can unmute and go ahead.
Hi, morning, gentlemen and ladies. I just want to find out in terms of how it is that, or let me rather ask this, are there any plans to establish partnership with international clubs or organization to enhance our local football?
Very interesting. In fact, it's refreshing for the first time in almost an hour to hear the voice of a female. Thank you so much, madam. Next Tuesday at 6 p.m., this process will start. We have had discussions with the Argentine ambassador here in Jamaica, and we have established a partnership which will be formally announced on Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. at the Pegasus. So, yes, ma'am, we're working on that, and this is just a start. I think it's very important. And in fact, part of the early discussions would be a kind of a bilateral program where coaches would go to countries overseas visiting top-notch clubs, and they would probably come here to see what we do have to offer. But very relevant question, and we are working on that.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right,
Okay, man.
thank you, Kathia. Jason Hall, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Simon. Jason Hall, Jason Buna TV here. Good morning to the President, Mr. Ricketts, and General Secretary, Mr. Chung,
Morning,
also
sir.
General
Good morning.
Manager, Mr. Simpson. Good morning, everyone. First question is mainly directed towards Mr. Simpson. Um, you had a interview on television recently where you mentioned Mason Greenwood and his status. I just was wondering, a few weeks on, can we get an update? Has there been any movement on that situation?
Hi, good morning, Jason. How you doing? No, it is still the same as is when I spoke the last time.
You have a follow-up
Okay.
question, Jason?
Yes, I do. So I've been keeping up with the U17's preparation, and I happen to know that a part of why they've been able to, keep this thing going is a lot of outside, I guess you'd say, funding and fundraising initiatives have been done to ensure that the camps can keep going. Is this something that the JFF is looking to do moving forward with our youth teams, where they utilize help from outside to ensure that the preparation is at a level that we believe is enough for us to have, a good chance of qualifying in these competitions moving forward?
I think that's something that we've always been doing. It of course depends on two things: the person who is organizing it, and kudos to Omar McFarlane and his team. He has been doing a great job there. Um, it also depends on the JFF image at the time, and the truth is that we've made efforts before, but because of what the image is, and this is what people need to understand: the image is very, very important. People flock towards a brand that has a positive image. And once that starts to shift, then you're going to have that shift. So I think that the time is right now. As you'd have heard me say, we had 3 different JFF football supporters club who approached us in the past 2 months and say, hey, we want to do some work with you from the diaspora, and it's not like we approach them. So, I think that you're going to see more and more of that happening, because people are seeing JFF in a much more positive light. And I think that it is welcome, even in the, one of them was sharing with me that even the US, for example, just launched a community program, because US soccer, of course, needs money too, and they were able to raise $32,000 US, so I think we're seeing more and more of that happening.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Shav, your audio should be better now. Shav and Peart.
Yeah, I can hear me now.
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead.
All right, thanks everyone for having me, and good morning to everyone here. Firstly, Simon, I want to say congratulations on being appointed to the permanent position there now. I mean, you have done a great job so far, and I hope that you continue doing the great job that you've been doing. I think one of my questions has been asked already by Jason regarding Mason. I think the other one would be regarding the local camp for the January-February period. I know it's something that the US normally does. When the MLS USL season ends, they normally have like a camp for their players, and they normally play friendlies. Do we so the question is, do we have like a specific time frame as to when those camps will actually begin? And also the plans, do we plan to potentially get in friendlies with the United States, being that they will be looking for friendlies for their MLS team as well?
Roy, you want to answer that? Can you?
Hi, can you repeat the question? My connection dropped a little.
All right, so just seeking in regards to the local camp, I know the US normally seeks friendlies for the US-based national team. I was wondering when do we plan on starting our local camp, and we plan to potentially utilize that option of getting a friendly against a US team or a Mexico or a Canadian team during that period?
Hi, Shavon. First of all, in terms of when you're negotiating friendly games, it is based on availability of the respective national teams. So usually the US or any one of our counterparts would indicate to us, that they are extending an invite for us. With regards to the local camp, what we are doing is that you'll all appreciate that we are currently in our JPL season. So what we'll be having is what we term a non-residential camp. So we have the players travel on respective days, and then they go back to their respective clubs, but closer to the game. So for example, if the game is on the 9th, we probably come in match day -2, which is the 7th, and then we'll run them in a residence for the period to incorporate the official training and the 2 games. So that's going to be the structure of the camp. But again, usually how it works is that based on our situation, we have to be cautious and very careful in terms of how we extend invitations to respective member associations. So for example, you might extend an invitation to the US to play, but they'll come back to you and say, okay, we'll play, but you're responsible for hotel accommodation, airfares, transportation, probably if they go through an agent, match fees for the agent. So we really have to be careful how we do it. But usually those big hitters don't usually play outside of the windows based on availability of their respective players.
Well, no, the reason why I asked is due to the fact that because I know during the January, February period before the MLS kicks off, they usually have friendlies within those windows for their MLS-based players. So that's the reason why I asked. And I think so you have US, Canada, the leagues that run that ends in December.
We could pursue that avenue now that you have said that. But as it is now, we are having negotiations with Trinidad for 2 or 3 games, sometimes in January. But what you have said, we can discuss it and see affordability would certainly be an issue. And we will look on what you have suggested and see how workable it is.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for the time.
All right, CC, go ahead.
Yes, thanks for having me here. Well, congratulations again in terms of what Jamaica would have achieved so far during the year. And the little hiccups and everything, but I think overall JFF has done pretty much a far better job now than previous years. So I think even with the transparency, it's kind of better now. So my question is with regards to the local camp, right? I know it says local camp, but you have players who play in USL who their leagues normally finish in November because I think it's March to November. Would it not be prudent of the JFF or prudent of the administration to see that it's a local camp, but it's also for some of those players who play in the USL who are not necessarily active within that period of time?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you are correct.
Okay.
You are correct. Because once players are available, it's not exclusively local based. Because those who are domiciled in, say, North America and are not actively participating in official competitions, they would be invited as well.
Okay, thanks.
President, just to back you up on this, if you remember the last time we had that agreement with Trinidad, we brought in Omari Hutchinson, we brought in Splat.
Right.
So
Right.
we invited some of our junior players out of the UK.
Right.
Okay, so my the next final question I have is with regards to partnership with in terms of gyms, local gyms, and like our nutritionists with regards to assisting the players in the league locally where they can get better develop better physicality and I would say nutrition wise.
Roy, I suppose that's yours.
Absolutely. Okay, so for example, Arnett has their own gym, Mount Pleasant has their own gym. So, we have to be careful because what you don't want to do is not to impose on what is happening with regards to preparation in their JPL season, because that is the priority of the respective clubs. But what we tend to do, and usually do, is our partnerships, or we say to respective gyms that we have a local camp running. The coaches or the trainer, have included in the schedule 2 gym sessions. So, for example, we'll say to a Spry, we'll say to any one of the gyms that can you afford us some time to come in, and they usually facilitate us. But as it relates specifically to the players in their respective clubs, usually it is the clubs who monitor and maintain that. When they come to us now, we will maintain what has been done in the club. But to say to a respective player that we have made arrangement for a particular gym, we do not do that. Only when they're in our space, we will afford them that.
Thank you, CC. Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Dre, I believe I saw your hand raised. Do you have a question? No. Okay. All right. Mr. Simpson, Mr. Chung, Mr. Ricketts, thank you very much for your time and for being able to answer the questions. Thank you very much to the members of the media as well.
May I just use this opportunity to wish, all the participants a very, very happy and productive holiday season. And just be very careful on the roads. And when you drink, please do so responsibly. And I really do hope that the JFF and the respective media houses will collaborate in a very positive way for year 2025. Thank you so much, Simon.
You're most welcome, Mr. Ricketts. Mr. Chung, Mr. Simpson, anything to add, or all is well?
No, I'm fine. I just want to wish everyone a happy season also, and be good.
All right. All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for your support. This recording will be shared in the media group quite shortly so that everybody will have access editorially for stories. Thank you very much, members of the media, for being here. Stay safe, and we look forward to a very bright and prosperous 2025. We stay in touch.
Okay. All right.